All right, for this next part, we're going to do something about the body over here. And if you look at the body, they're not really straight lines. They're just kind of curved. So I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to accomplish quite that, but it'll still be pretty cool. I have a plan. I'm going to drag this red box over here. And let's start with making it roughly the same size. Let's park it over there. I'm going to hit F. And then I'll bring it up. And we just want to get somewhere around the same ballpark of a size, roughly. All right, so that's almost there. Let's go there and probably there. Spin this around and bring it up a little bit. Okay, so that's about the right size. I guess now let's get the right thickness. So maybe I'll bring it up first and we'll look underneath and see if it's getting there. So if you don't know this trick, if you hold control up arrow, that brings it up. So that's pretty good. Now that that's done, I'll bring this down until it's about flush. I don't mind if it's a little wider. Now I'm going to get it out of there so I can process it, make it sound fancy, but I'm basically just going to do a little work to it. So I think I'll drop it to the ground. And oh yeah, that's right. My plan is to bevel or give it a radius, a little bit of a radius, so that it kind of doesn't have that straight line. It's got a little bit of curve. And then I'm going to chop off the tops because the top won't be rounded so much. I think that's too much rounding. So we'll drag a shape, an empty shape down here. And I think I'm going to just chop away this bottom part. Yeah, and I guess I'll scoot this in a little bit and right click, move over here. I guess it's safe to say that it's really important to be able to maneuver. Like I'm doing a lot of rotating and looking, and I'm very quick at it, at least in my opinion. So now we have this. We'll cut off the bottom part. Maybe we'll bring it up. Let's see. We want it to be. Now I'm looking right here to see if I can kind of match the height of that. And that's pretty close right there. So I'm going to duplicate this shape at the bottom. Duplicate, Control D. Then I'm going to up arrow. And I might as well hold Shift while I up arrow so it jumps faster. And now we'll see if it's lined up about with the top. Looks like it's about there. So yeah, that's probably good. I might actually, this is not like centered between the two empty shapes. So I think I'll click on the red and I'll go up arrow with control up arrow. Okay, so now it looks pretty well centered. I'm going to select those and group them. And that'll take a bite out of that. And now I've got my kind of shape that I want. Let me hit F. Let me zoom out a little bit. And yeah, so that's going to go right in that area. But no buts, actually. It's just fine like that. Looks like I probably need to make it a little bit bigger. So I'm going to hit Alt Shift, just drag out just to make it a touch bigger. And that's probably just fine. Okay, so that having been done, I can probably delete out the pink shape at some point. But for now, I'm going to hopefully make this look cool. I probably need to make a cylinder coming out of here that joins up with this orange cylinder. But that may not be, it may not be the step I want to do right this moment. Looking at this is kind of my original inspiration. I noticed there's a box going around the inside. So let's go ahead and make something like that. I'm going to drag a work plane right on top of that. Then I'm going to bring a square, another square onto the scene. And let's make it a lot shorter so we can better judge. This is just going to be like kind of the trim. I'm going to make this little rectangular trim going around. So it doesn't have to be very thick. In fact, let's go real thin like that. And now we just want to kind of make sure we've got it roughly centered. I guess that's pretty good. So that being said, I'm going to hit Control D. That creates a duplicate. And then I'm going to hold Alt Shift. That's a move I use a lot. Yeah, that way it symmetrically shrinks into the interior. And then I'm going to make that into a hole, an empty space. And looks like I probably need to make it taller so it protrudes out. I want it to basically take a bite out of that red rectangle. So while that's selected, I'm going to hit F so it zooms in a little bit. And this is selected. I'm going to hold Shift and select that and then combine them. And sure enough, it made a nice... I'm going to put the work plane down here so we can kind of see better what happened. And I didn't join it with the other red, so I can change the color, make it look a little more, cool. So back to this, my inspiration. I want to make this rectangle shape too, and might as well do that now. So let's put the work plane right there, and we'll drag a squarish shape onto the screen here. And let me hit F so it zooms out. Grab that and make it a lot shorter so we can better judge what's going on. And I guess it needs to be arrow keyed up a little bit so that it's more centered on the lens. Because I don't know my camera anatomy or anything, but probably has something to do with that. And it looks like it's a little lower than the eyepiece, if that's what you call that. But anyways, that looks good. Bring it down a little bit. I want it to be a little taller than that black or gray outline. So there, that's good. Now, oops, I keep thinking I can select this like it's a 3D object, but I guess I can make these little cool looking gear shapes. That would be good. That might actually be a little trickier, but let's see. Yeah, I guess I could do that right now. Let me put this onto the screen and hit F so it gives me a better view. Let me scoot this out of the way. I'll bring it out here and move it to the side so I can see what's going on. And right now it's way too big, but that's okay. I'm just going to probably work on it out here while it's way large, and then later I'll shrink the whole thing. So I'm going to need probably just more of these cylinders, actually. Let me close this again and excuse me. Let's align these two for one. And then I don't need this to be quite so tall. So click on it, shrink it. I do want it to be a little taller than that though. And then let's hold Shift. I'm going to probably have to align it all over again, but let's make it way smaller. Okay, so now back to what we were doing. Let's align it. And looks like it shrank in height a lot, so I'm going to have to bring it back up. Okay, now let me arrow key it into this, and I think I'll change the color of it. That could be good. And maybe not that far into it, but anyways, Control D, Shift arrow key so it jumps over there. And I'm not sure how far in to this it's going on each side, but it looks like it's going about halfway into that cylinder. And then let's take a look at this one. About the same there, so that's probably good. I'm going to select this one, hold shift, select that one. I'm going to hit Control D, and then I'll rotate them. And what I'm looking for is I want it to kind of make little gear teeth. So that's probably good. I'll hit Control D and it'll just continue. And looks like this could be pretty good. I'm going to select all of it and then hold shift to deselect the middle. I'll make the cylinders empty spaces, holes, and then I'll group everything. Yeah. All right, so now I want to hollow out the middle. I'm going to grab one of these and let's see. I'll hold Alt Shift to make it smaller, bring it into the interior, and it might be worth it. Let's take a look again. Yeah, those are pretty thin, so I'll hold Alt Shift and make it a little bigger. And let's select all this and align it in this direction and that direction. And did that align? Yeah. Doesn't need to be that tall. It'll help us judge better whether it's centered and all. Okay, so select those, group them. And now we've got this little cool looking gear type thing. And then I'll want to put one in the center. So I'll hold Alt Shift and I'll just put this structure in the center, probably make it a little smaller than that. And let's select both of those and align this way and that way. Does that look aligned? Yeah, I guess it's just an illusion because that is taller. So if I shrink it down, yeah, that looks centered. Okay, so I'm going to group that, and then it'll just be one object that can move together. And now I want to shrink the whole thing and bring it over here. Whoops. Want that. Let's see. Let's zoom out. I'll put the work plane back where it was, and maybe I'll use arrow keys just to keep that thing from happening. I'll arrow key it over, and I'm holding shift so it moves 10 pixels at a time. Now I'll hit F so it zooms in. Looks like I need to hit Control up arrow to bring it up out of there. And let's see, is it protruding out? Is it floating up above? I guess the easiest way is to just make it float above, put the work plane right on this, and then hit D, and it'll drop down perfectly on the work plane. Looks like it's actually kind of centered, luckily. So I guess, yeah, that looks pretty good. I'm going to hit Control D and arrow key over so we have another one. And just checking my reference. Maybe not quite that far. That's good. This is, they made theirs look like whitish or whatever. So I don't know. These are just cool looking knobs and stuff we're going to put on it. I feel like I'm making some kind of steampunk retrofit thing. But yeah, there's the beginnings of, this will be part 2. I don't want to make this video too long. So let me put the work plane back where it was, and we'll kind of admire it for a second. And we're just moving a little bit closer to our goal of having a cool looking camera. And I guess at some point I'm going to want to mirror this to the other side. So, you know, like I said, it won't be just 2-dimensional or something. All right. See you in the next video. Like and subscribe.